I'm Christa Jacobson, headmistress of the Budo where we teach authentic ninjutsu and classical samurai Bujutsu. And for those of you who don't know what that is, those are the ancient martial arts of the ninja and samurai. Tonight I'm going on one of my night walks, and I'm going to share some of my thoughts on the martial arts with all of you guys today. And right, dojo's closed, family's in bed, and here we go, right? So it's been a while since I've done one of my night walking videos. So if this is the first video you guys have seen of me, I'm the headmistress of the Budo, which means School of the Warrior Way. We teach 7 different ancient traditions of the ninja and samurai. I do teach koryu Bujutsu or koryu Ninjutsu, which means it was in the age of the ninja and samurai. So in Japan there's a split. Anything that happened previous to 1868 is called koryu, right? Or the old arts, or the old school, and then anything after 1868 is called Gendai Budo, which would be the modern martial arts like karate do, aikido, kendo, judo. Usually they follow the do philosophy. And anyway, I teach the koryu, the stuff that was previous to that. We also have a really strong emphasis on reality-based self-defense. So if you guys are interested in, you would think that every school that teaches self-defense would be reality-based. Unfortunately, it's not. But if you guys are interested in classical Japanese martial arts and, reality-based self-defense, check out my website at www.budodninjutsu.com. Also, if you guys are just interested in Japanese martial arts and philosophy and self-defense videos and stuff like that, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I try to put up 2 or 3 videos a week. So yeah, subscribe to the channel and you guys can catch up on my thoughts. I know there's a lot of people that share their opinions on YouTube and various other social media platforms, but it is what it is. I'm sharing mine, right? It doesn't really matter what martial art you're studying. Every martial art is their own little deal, right? Everyone chooses the best martial art for them. So, if you're into the sport martial arts, then do sport stuff. You're into competition, do competition stuff. You're into the reality-based self-defense stuff, do that. Whatever it is that you're into, do it. But whenever you do it. Don't half-ass it. And so I'm going to kind of jump into a specific topic that I have discussed many times. It's that first degree master type of thing. I'm going to lightly touch on that from a different angle that I haven't touched on it before, because it really, today's incident, when I had to watch this video from an individual, really brought something to light that I don't think that I've discussed, at least not in any depth in one of my videos yet. So when I talk about ignorant martial artist, what does that mean? There's a difference between being stupid and being ignorant. When you're just a little one, and you walk into the room and you see the stove's on, and you got some wood in the stove and you're heating up the home, and it's really hot. You put your hand on the stove and you burn your hand. Well, that was ignorant. But ignorant means you didn't know why. You did something and you got hurt and you burned yourself. Ignorant is doing something that you were ignorant to what it was. You didn't understand what you were doing. Now, if you've burnt your hand on the stove and then a week later you go back in there and then you do it again, that's stupid. Stupid is knowing better, but you do it anyway, right? So I'm not talking about stupid martial artists, because then we can make a whole series on that. I'm talking about ignorant martial people who just don't know any better. And they don't. They did exactly what their teacher told them. Their teacher gave them some this, that, and the other, and they believe what they have is great. When you're training in martial arts, ultimately there's the mind, the body, and the spirit. So I'm going to touch on the first on master and why it's bad. I'm going to use the analogy of an inward block. It doesn't matter what martial art you're doing. The inward block is an inward block. Every martial art utilizes the inward block for basically the same thing. It's not like, you do this martial art and the inward block does this, and you do that martial art and the inward block does that. No, an inward block is an inward block. Now, when you look at 10 different martial arts and you look at the way that they do the inward block, the quote-unquote way that they do the martial art will look completely different. And it will be different in the way that they deliver it, the way they move their body, the way that they express themselves, and the way that they're doing things. However, the essence of the inward block is the exact same. That's why I'm saying whatever martial arts you're doing, do it. Don't dick around and do all this different shit. Now, some schools have specifically koryu. In the koryu schools, you have collections of ryuha. So in the koryu, you have a lot of people that are like, well, we have our sword school, our sword ryu, and we have our jujutsu ryu, or our taijutsu, ninjutsu, whatever. So when you have koryu tend to train in a collection of ryuha. But in koryu, like what I do, even though you have a different, they're different collection of ryuha, the head of the school still has the same philosophical base of how they approach all of them. So even though they may be different from a technical perspective, they're not different from a philosophical perspective, a spiritual perspective, a mental perspective, emotional perspective, so on and so forth. Where let's say that you're doing like Muay Thai, Taekwondo, Goju Ryu, and Judo. Well, those are completely different, made completely different places in the world at a completely different time. They were never meant to be like a puzzle piece where they fit together. Well, when you're doing that, they're not all on the same, from a spiritual, mental, all that kind of stuff. They're not on the same. So you're looking at technical skills alone. Now going back to the inward block analogy, an inward block is an inward block. No matter how you shake that stick, I feel sorry for the people who they can't open their mind up enough to realize that. Like they really think, I got to do this art, then I got to go to this, then I'm going to go to this organization, I'm going to go to this organization, I'm going to go to this organization. And they keep searching for something. And the reality is if they just never would have quit doing what they were doing, they just keep going, they would have found what they're searching for. The unfortunate thing is there's so many people that don't do that because it takes commitment. And a lot of people they fear commitment, because with commitment you have to actually dedicate and devote yourself to something bigger than what you are. A lot of people don't like that. They have too much ego. So they don't want to, admit that there is something out there bigger and have something they should, attain or put themselves up to attain, right? They don't want to submit to something like that. So they keep bouncing around and go to this organization. And that's what I mean by the first dawn masters. But when you study the martial art, let's start with kata. When you have a kata and you're doing, we're going to call it like kata 1, for this particular video. Most martial arts, and again, I can only speak from koryu. I can't really speak from, I'm not an MMA school, I'm not all that kind of stuff, but I have been doing this for quite some time. And most koryu, right, or whatever, they're teaching the whatever martial arts, you have to learn kata and forms and techniques. And when you first learn the physical side of the martial arts, it's the punching, the kicking, the getting yourself in shape and all that kind of stuff. Then you have the mind as the stuff that you learn, like you learn kata, you learn this, learn that. The higher purpose of all these kata is to learn the philosophy and the strategies behind them. And what I mean by that is, let's say that you have a kata where they're coming in with a punch. And as that punch comes in, maybe you step back and do an upward block and then, a counter with a kick. I'm totally just, winging it here. The philosophy and the principles behind that is what you utilize when you come into a problem. Most people don't have to fight against, they don't have to do self-defense against a punch or a kick or a knife or a gun. Although yes, that's what we train for, 100%. You should be training you should be training mentally to prepare yourself for that and have the physical skills for that, 100%. But most people have to fight fear, anxiety, stress, depression. They have to. You're laying in bed at night, and your mind goes down that rabbit hole of not feeling like you're worth anything. You're worthless, and you start going on. You have that alone feeling. That is what martial arts is supposed to teach you to combat. That self-defense is not just in a physical realm. Self-defense is in the mental realm, the emotional realm, and the spiritual realm. When you feel like you're being attacked, you have to learn how to defend yourself. Self-defense is also defend yourself against you. You know what I mean? Most people's biggest critic is themselves. And you do listen when you talk shit to yourself. And when you say, I can't do this, or I'm too old for this, or I'm too overweight, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm too skinny, I don't have enough muscle, I would never be able to do that. You do listen to that. And unfortunately, a lot of people fail because they listen to the bullshit that they give themselves. If you're studying martial arts, whatever it is that you're doing, what attack is it? What is it that you're fearing? What is it that's hurting you? What's stopping you from being who you want to be? What's stopping you from being, the man or the woman that you want to be? What's stopping you from making the money you want to make? What's the attack? What's the adversary? What kata do you know? And see, that's the thing. Most people study the martial arts and all they learn is the physical side of martial arts. And that's where I feel, earlier when I said I feel sorry for individuals like that, that's what I meant. Because once you get to a certain point, you should be learning the strategies and the principles and the philosophies behind the kata, not the actual physical form. The physical form doesn't matter because no one's going to fight like a kata. The kata was designed to transmit information through generations and to transmit a certain way, a muscular memory, to be able to move a certain way pragmatically and effectively in a violent situation. But that transmission through the generations is what it was for, so that you could pass it on to the next generation, next. But people lose track of that too. They think kata is more than what it is, or they think kata is something that it's not. So then they learn all these kata and they learn how to do, this against a punch and this against a kick and this against a grab. And then someone gives them a master level black belt. And then they don't even know what the fuck they're doing. They don't really know what the philosophy of the katas are and how you're supposed to apply that to life. And that's where I feel like I'm really lucky to have had that type of training, to understand when this attack happens, you should do this. And when this happens in life, this is what that means. And this is the defense against this. And this is how you should approach these problems. And it's more than just looking, like a lot of people tend to kind of go this modern concept of, oh, if it's a fire element type of an attack, you should be water. Well, it's all well and good on paper, but I think we can all call bullshit on that, right? Because, in the heat of a moment, you're not gonna sit there and analyze the shit. And you're not gonna, it's deep thought's one thing, meditation's one thing, understanding and contemplating is one thing, but being able to pragmatically and effectively move and defend yourself constantly against everything is another thing. And you can't always sit there and call that kind of stuff, although I think it's great. But at the end of the day, all that elemental, this element versus that, and this element cancels that, so you got the godai and the gogyo and all that kind of stuff, the godai no kata, the gogyo no kata, the gogyo no ho, and the methods and all that. It's great. I teach it. It's what we do in the dojo. But you also have to recognize that the creation cycle and the destruction cycle and all this kind of stuff, and the void and the kukan and all that kind of stuff, when trying to transfer all that information and apply it to your life, you have to understand the philosophies of the kata and what the kata was actually teaching you. And if you don't understand that, you can't apply it. And that's why we have first of all, there's a lot of these first on masters are just shit. And they just walk around and I got a first degree in this, that, and the other. And you know my thoughts on that. First degree is a shodan, means initial level student. So anyone who has, 3 shodans and trying to be a master, they're either, my thoughts on that. It's ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous. But you do have people who have trained in quite some time, and they have ranks, and they've dedicated themselves to something, and they believe they have something, and they've been told they have something, and they don't. But when you look at the first on masters, you have to stick those in the stupid category, because those people had to have been told at some point, first degree, second degree ain't that fucking high. And you're really, until you get into the understanding of the kata and the philosophies and stuff, there's way more than just punching and kicking. But apparently some people just don't know that. But then you get into your ignorant martial arts. People just don't know better. They've been told one thing, and they think they have something. Or the people who they're not ignorant at all. They're I would say extremely intelligent, but they believe what they have is what is great. What I have is this, and this is the gospel truth, right? And you just sit back and you watch. But when you don't focus on simplicity and you're making things over complex, I guess you overlook simplicity sometimes, isn't it? The most simplest things in the world, sometimes the hardest things to see, yeah? These people, they constantly want to look at all this different stuff, I want to do Bagua and Kung Fu and Xuan Fa and Wing Chun and Jeet Kune Do and Kempo and Taijutsu and Ninpo Taijutsu, and man, they got their foot in more fucking buckets of shit And there's the fucking shit. They have no fucking skills, man. They're training all this shit. And it's like, well, I ask them why. Well, I want to learn how to do that. I want to learn how to do that. The question here is, what is it about it that you want to learn? Do you want to learn the technique or do you want to learn the art? Because again, at the very beginning of this video, I said, an inward block is an inward fucking block. The fuck do you got to start all over again? I do 3 years of Taekwondo, and I do 3 years of this, and I do 3 years of that. The fuck you keep starting over for? Keep going. You know what I mean? The goal is to get to the top of the mountain, not like, you know, get like a fourth of the way up the fucking thing, or get to the first little notch and then start over at the bottom of the mountain at a different mountain. You know what I mean? It's just like, I didn't get it. I think no matter what martial arts you study, whether you're doing boxing or kickboxing or karate or koryu, Bujutsu, Taijutsu, Ninpo Taijutsu, you should, at some level, research the other arts. You should look at, okay, this is Krav Maga, this is what they do. This is how they move. This is Systema, this is Aikido, this is, and you should have a working memory of particular movements. And then you should try to make your art, whatever it is you're studying, okay, how would I do what my art, like if we're doing whatever school that you're training in, how can what I'm doing beat that? And then you work on those moves and you do your shadow boxing and you do your sparring, you do your grappling and whatever it is, your bag drills or whatever you're doing. And you should be constantly trying to do that. You know, anytime you can train with multiple people, that's always a good thing too. You know, there's nothing, I think that, you know, but to me, cross-training isn't cross-training in different arts. Cross-training is taking what you're trying to master, and then maybe if you have a friend that does a different art and you do like some, you know, grapple time or some spar time, or maybe you guys work technique, but you're still focusing on your skill set. You're trying to make what you're doing better. You know, you catch what I mean? Because again, I go back to that inward block's an inward block. And you're trying to take something and that's why they call it the way. And the way doesn't mean turn around and go a different direction. The way is the way. I can't imagine Miyamoto Musashi being like, yes, I'm fighting so-and-so. On this day of this month, I'm fighting this person. I need to go down to the whatever school and learn their techniques. Like, that fucking never happened. You know, never in the history of ever did that shit ever fucking happen. It's like, you know, as this country versus that country, right? And it's like this war. The war in the Middle East. I mean, it's like, you know, oh, we need to learn their combative techniques. No, you don't. You just need to do what you do. You need to formulate a strategy to go against what it is that they do. But when you remember when they say, there's this old saying in the martial arts, and I mean, every one of you guys have heard it, so I'm just going to say it, you know, although it fits, but it doesn't necessarily fit the way it's going to be meant for this video, but it says the secret's in the kata. We've all heard that, the secret's in the kata. You know, deep down, that means that there's something more to the kata than just the punching and kicking. Wouldn't it be a sad fucking state of affairs if you study your whole fucking life to learn how to throw a fucking punch just to hit someone? There's more to martial arts than just that. Now, don't get me wrong, martial arts is about war, it's about fighting. And anyone who says that's not its main principle, well, then they are particularly full of shit, because that is its main principle, but I'm just saying there's more to it. Martial arts, first and foremost, should give you the physical and mental skills to be able to protect yourself in an extreme violent situation. And if your martial art can't do that, then you need to get the fuck out of that martial art and do something different. But there should be other things it does too. It shouldn't be just that. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some martial arts that they're based for sport, right? And I get it. There's some martial arts that only do self-defense. I get it. I'm talking about traditional martial arts because that's what I teach. I'm in that world, okay? So in that world, there should be more to it than just that. So when you study the ancient ways, you learn these kata, from the Sengoku Jidai and the Sengoku Jidai into the Edo period and the Edo period into the Meiji period, there's an evolution of the particular kuden and the particular kata. And you should understand that. Because even though the transmission of the kata stayed the same from its mechanical motion and then the teachings and then its principles of what it was meant to be from a combative perspective, it evolved into something much greater. So what at one time like take Ninjutsu or Bujutsu, right? Samurai Bujutsu, at one time was meant as this complete act of war, right? Becomes into a method of self-enlightenment through combative motion. So when you're learning kata, your teacher should be teaching you when you get a certain level. That's not something that people should learn first. You know, you baby steps, yeah? But when you get to a certain level, especially if you're at the master level, you should be learning the principles and the strategies and what is this kata? Why does that kata for this? How does this apply to my life? How do I protect myself against mental, the mental attacks? It's not just, well, self-esteem, you know. No, it's not just that. It's learning how to protect the mind. It's learning how to protect your emotions, learning how to protect the spirit. You know, we talk about Bushi-ki, like samurai spirit. And because a lot of times, I mean, we're all human. We all have emotion, but being able to protect yourself away from that kind of stuff is really important. And it's a crucial part of martial arts. Majority of people who train in martial arts, the majority, not all, but the majority of people who train in martial arts have to defend themselves more against that, and more against themselves, like I said, than a punch or a kick. Not just simply because most people who study martial arts understand situational awareness. You know, don't put yourself in a bad position, right? It's like, you know, best defense, don't be there. When you're studying the martial arts, it's just very important that you guys dig deeper in whatever it is that you're doing. If you're only looking at it from a physical perspective, just know that there's more to it than that. And if you're not getting more than that, you might want to ask your teacher why you're not getting more than just punch, punch, kick, kick. And if you're the one of these people that's like, oh, I've done martial arts for 20, 30 years, and you're still obsessed with learning how to do a fucking arm bar and a takedown, then I got nothing for you. Intellectually, I honestly probably don't even want to have a conversation with you. I mean, think about this. The fucking arm only bends one way. An elbow joint bends one way. If you have been studying martial arts for that much time and you're still obsessed with another way to bend the arm that only bends one fucking way, then I got nothing for you. You need to take that ass somewhere else. But there are people like that. They're just obsessed with the physical aspect of the martial arts and they don't look at it from anything else. And there's nothing wrong with, you should understand the physical aspects, but you should also understand that, you know, do you really need 600 different ways to bend the arm the same fucking way? There's a point in your training when you realize you're doing the same fucking thing, you're just starting from a different point, right? That's why there's an old saying, it says, in a beginner's mind there's many, in a master's mind there's few. A lot of people don't understand that. Well, that's why. You know what I mean? You don't bend the arm fucking one way. Oh, I can do an arm bar from Kesa. I can do an arm bar from Yoko Shiogatami. I could do Juji Gatami from Tate Shiogatami. I could do Juji Gatami from Dojimi. Well, okay. You can do an arm bar from 5 different positions. Kudos. You end in the same position. I'm not trying to down it. It's just that people put more emphasis on hurting people than helping people. People put more emphasis on how they can beat someone's ass than lift people up. And that's a pathetic thing about the martial art community right now. It's just a cesspool of bullshit. So many people just want to know how to beat someone's ass and put them down and beat them down and kick their fucking ass and I can do this and I can do that. But no one wants to do the time it takes to help people get better. No one wants to do the time to help people get up, stand up. You know what I mean? And it's terrible. And as martial artists, I think we should spend a lot of time helping people and be better people and opening their mind to different things. It's about someone that's going to help you be a better you, help the martial art grow within you, help you be a better person, and then you could take that and then help somebody else become a better person. Kindness is something that we can all do. We can all help people, but we live in a world where no one wants to help another person. All they want to learn is a new fucking technique, and that's what I get with that first on master bullshit. I can kick your fucking ass and I'll learn a new arm bar. It's like, whatever. Same old, same old. But I mean, you know, it's been going on for centuries, right? That's why Sengoku Jidai happened in the first place. You know, one prefecture wants to take over the other prefecture and everyone's fighting to take over the land. And I mean, it's just ingrained into what it is that martial arts are for, I guess. And then we all train in the arts of war and contemplate why the fuck we're doing it to begin with, isn't it? That's the mind fuck for you, for the night, yeah? All right, well, here's my outro. So hopefully you guys got something out of that one. I do apologize for it being so long, but if you guys are interested in authentic ninjutsu and classical samurai bujutsu, please check out my website at www.budodninjutsu.com. There you can see a list of our schools. If you don't live next to one of our schools, we do offer an online ninjutsu dojo where you can train online and go through the curriculum that way. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section, and I will talk to all of you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.